Welcome back, everyone. For today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the qualification stage of the Freestyle Grand Slam Chess Tour being held here in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Wynn Hotel. Now, the group stage is a little bit different than the previous events in both Germany and in France. In this one, there are two groups of 8 players instead of it being 6, meaning that the top 4 out of the 8 players will advance the knockout stage and remain in contention for the grand prize of $200,000. So, with $200,000 up for stake, the goal here is very simple. In the 8-player group, also known as Group Black, I want to finish in the top 4. I don't really care if I finish first or fourth, as long as I'm in the top 4 and advance to the last 8. So, without further ado, let's jump right into the action. Now, the first game of the day, I had a draw against Lenier Dominguez. In the second round, I had a very topsy-turvy game against Samuel Sevian from the United States of America, a game that I would pull out and get the win, which gave me a little bit of confidence and breathing room in terms of trying to reach the top 4. Now, the third game would be a draw against Fabiano Caruana, and now we're going to pick it up in the fourth game against Arjun with the black pieces. Now, in my group, there was also the future first American world champion, Hans Niemann. He got off to a blazing start by scoring 3.5 points out of 4. Now, one of the good things about Hans doing so well is it means that my task is a little bit easier in terms of trying to reach the knockout stage, because if he is bulldozing people, it means there are less people in contention for the top 4 spots. So, a lot of speaking, a lot of yapping. Let's get into the fourth round game against Arjun Erigaisi, and in this game, I have the black pieces. So we get the move f4. Here I play the move knight b6. Of course, this once again is Fischer random, chess 960. When Arjun plays the move f4, if I get sloppy and play a standard move like say d5 here, trying to build a bit of a big black center, after bishop takes a7, it's already spaghetti-o time. My rook on b8 is trapped, and I am going to lose the game. So, I play the move knight to b6 to try and cut off this diagonal, and here Arjun goes for a very deep concept with the move b3. Now, when Arjun plays the move b3 here, his goal is to try and prove that me bringing out my knight this early is an epic fail. Now, I have tried to play some of these setups myself from the other side. For example, if there is a knight in the corner, I guess I'll just set up a random position here. Actually, why did I play g6? I have set up some of these positions. Let me just make some random moves here, where I've seen this before, where there's a knight in the corner, and when one side brings out the knight very early, for example, to like g6, if white can put the pawns on this chain of 3 and bring the knight to f2, generally this can be very tough to deal with. So Arjun here plays b3. He's trying to argue that after this move c4 here, my knight has no good squares to jump to, and white's knight can go to c2, and from c2 there will be all kinds of squares in the center of the board, e3, d4, b4, etc. So now I play the move e5. Here Arjun plays f5, and now I make a very big mistake when I play this move g6. Now, as soon as I play this move, I realized I had erred. What I should have played here is I should have followed the classic meme dream and played the move pawn to d5. This, of course, is trying to build the classic big black center here with the pawns, and after white, say, pushes a pawn, I can go knight d7 here. If white trades, after takes, a knight takes d5 here. I have ideas like queen c6 to hit the king, knight b4. This is simply a position which I'm really happy with. Now, it's important to note here, because one of the ideas that I thought that Arjun might go for was to try and play a move like e4 to build a bit of a white center here, stopping me from pushing the pawns. But when he went f5, I just got sloppy and played this move g6. Now, this move is a big mistake for me here. I was very fortunate that Arjun missed the correct response, which I did see at the board when he was thinking. Now here Arjun played the move knight to e3, trying to guard the pawn on f5. But what Arjun missed is that after the move e4, if I take on f5 here, white does not have to take the pawn on f5 here, because black can play bishop to e7, followed by d5 here, and black should be okay. But white can actually play the move pawn to c5 here, attacking the knight, and I thought that I was in trouble, but wow. Humans don't understand anything about Fischer random chess, because apparently here I can sack the knight on b6, and after takes, queen takes e4 here, I have rook to a8, and apparently if white tries to guard the pawn, now I have d5, and there's a big black center here with the 2 bishops, Apparently, black is much better if not winning. Again, I'm not going to pretend to understand this. I actually thought that I played poorly, and then after the move e4 takes c5, I'd have to play knight a8, and after e takes f5, all of the black pieces are on the back rank, and white is doing very well. But clearly I don't understand anything about chess, because after this move e4 takes and c5, you can just simply sack the horse, take the open file, and with this big black center here, apparently black is much better. Who knew this is how chess would be? At any rate, Arjun plays the move knight to e3 here, trying to guard the pawn. Now, one of the concepts that I have spoken about in past recaps is this idea of your opponent putting the knight in front of a central pawn. Now, I fundamentally believe this to be a big mistake in general, because when you put the knight on e3 here, you cannot push this pawn to activate the bishop. Another example would be, say, white were to put this knight on d3, for example, in front of this d pawn. Generally, I think when you put a knight in front of central pawns, it is a big mistake fundamentally. That's my own view. I don't know if it's true in every position or not. Whereas, say, if you get a knight in front of a pawn on the edge of the board, so say white were to go knight g3 here, for example, I don't think it's as big of a deal. But when you put a knight on one of these two central files here in front of a pawn, I think this is just a big blunder. So I go bishop e7. Arjun plays knight c2, stopping me from checking the king, and now I play the move d5, building a big black center. Arjun takes, I take back with the bishop here. This is a very important moment, because if I were to take with the knight here, which feels maybe a little bit more natural, after takes, and the move e4, black still is probably better after bishop c6, but now white is going to be able to develop the bishops and the queen. So I play the move bishop takes pawn here. Arjun takes the bishop, I take back, and you're probably thinking, uh-oh, my opponent Arjun Erigaisi here, he's got the two Bs, the Bs should be good. But one of the things that I think I'm very good at understanding in Fischer Random Chess is that the bishop pair, because the bishops are not on their proper squares at the start of the game, it's not as effective. I've had some very nice wins in previous events against players like Norbek Abdusattorov, where I've given my opponent the bishop pair, and in this case, I'm right once again that the bishop pair is useless. Now, the big reason the bishop pair is useless is that white is really lacking in development. This bishop on d1 specifically is very, very poorly placed. Both the diagonals are closed here. I'm going to be castling my king on the next turn, and already it's very, very tough to play. So, in this position, we get the move queen to f1, played by Arjun, and now I've decided to castle my king. Now, the problem here is that white cannot easily develop these pieces. If you move the knight, there's bishop a3, and out of nowhere, the white king is simply getting checkmated. If you play a move like e4, there's knight to f4 here, followed by knight d3, and this is just a huge disaster. So Arjun goes king to b2. Here I play king to b8, moving the king over to guard the pawn, and now we get the move e4. Here I play knight to b4, offering the trade of the horses while putting pressure on this pawn on d2. Arjun goes bishop e3, I play knight d3, king a1, and now I play the move queen to c6, pressuring both the pony on c2 and the pawn on e4. Arjun plays knight to e1, and now I play the move knight takes e1. Now, I think this shows the form that I was in today, because it'd be very easy here with a 4-minute advantage to spend 2 or 3 minutes, look for something concrete, like a move like queen takes e4, for example, or some way to win on the spot, but I decide to follow the classic acronym that is true as time, which is called KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. So I trade the horses on e1, and now I play the move bishop to c5 here. And at this point, even if it's not conclusively winning, I'm quite better here because white has this backwards pawn on d2. The knight on f8 is much better than this light square b. This op has just no diagonals at all. It is a terrible, terrible piece. And even if I'm not winning here, my moves are a lot easier. So we get bishop f3. I play bishop d4, Arjun trades, goes rook c1. Now I play queen to d7, creating the double stack and pressuring the pawn on d2. Arjun trades the pawns, goes rook c2, and now I play the move queen d6. Now perhaps I should have played the move queen d6 right away, but by going queen d7, I did force Arjun to get rid of this pawn at f5, which now releases this e6 square for the knight to start jumping every which way. So I go queen d6, queen f2, knight to e6 here. Now I have f4 and c5. White's pieces are tied down, guarding this pawn on d2. We got h4, I go rook d8, rook c1, and now I play the move c6. Now, the one important thing here is that I don't want to rush it by trading everything off on d2, because if I trade everything off on d2, this endgame very likely is going to be a win still, but there is a problem with this pawn on f6. White can maybe create an outside pawn on the h file and start pushing p, and overall, there are chances for a swindle to occur. So I go c6 here. Now I have the triple stack on the d file. We get to move g4, and here I play knight to f4, which of course creates the bastion for the horse. So now I've got the triple stack on the d file, also known as Aliekin's gun. I've got the bastion for the knight, and at this point this is simply a dream come true, and we add in the fact that I have 2.5 minutes versus Arjun's 20 seconds. This is just a disaster, and there's no way back. We get rook d1, I play the move a5 here, Arjun goes h5, g5, queen f1, now I go c5, queen b5, b6 here. You'll notice that all my pieces are also on the opposite color. This is light square op. Even if the diagonals are closed, this bishop is not touching anything. Literally every single piece I have on the board is on the opposite color of this bishop. There is just nothing to do. So we get king b1, I play rook b4, Arjun goes queen a6, and now I play the move knight to e6, trying to reroute the horse to d4 to pressure the bishop, the rook, and the pawn. Arjun goes rook c3, and now I play the move c4. Now here, white is probably losing anyway, but if Arjun wanted to try to survive, the only way was to move the queen back to f1. But after a4, rook c3, and knight d4, look at this bastion knight on d4 here. The pressure on the pawn on b3. I also still have the double stack here. This is just a hopeless position. It is, as we like to say in the gamer community, power overwhelming. I'm going to win no matter what. So we get the move rook c3. Now the reason this move is a blunder is that it loses on the spot. I go c4 here, and now my goal is to put the knight on either c5 or c7, trapping the white queen and winning the game. Arjun goes rook c4. I play queen d3 check, of course. If I move the knight here, white can sack the rook, and this is still very good for black, but the game continues. So I go queen to d3, checking the king, pinning this rook on c4 here. Arjun plays king a1, and now I play the move knight to c5 here, trapping the queen on a6. If the queen goes, I take the queen, takes. Queen can't go anywhere here. If white tries to sack the rook with rook takes knight, I simply take the queen on the backwards diagonal, and the Botez gambit is accepted, and I win very shortly. So here Arjun plays rook takes rook, just trying to keep the game going. I take his queen, he takes, I go up here, and after the move queen to c2, Arjun resigns the game here because this pony has gone all over the board. I think it started on something like f8, it went to e6, then it went to f4, then I think it went to d3, then I think it eventually found its way back to e6 if I remember correctly. I could have it wrong, but this knight has been a hero in the game. And to finish off the journey, I'm going to put the knight on b4 here, creating the checkmate on a2. And white can't really do anything. If you play a3 stopping knight b4, then I go knight c5 threatening the mate on b3. There's just no way to survive. So after queen to c2, Arjun resigns this game. This means that I now move to a score of 3 out of 4, and I move into clear second. And I now have quite a bit of breathing room. The qualifier is 7 games. After 4 games, the only 2 people who have won games without losing are both Hans Niemann and myself. So in the 5th game, I believe that I would go on to win once again. And now in the 5th round, I would win, against Ray Robson. And now we're going to take a look at the 6th game of the event. At this point, even though I'm having a great event with 3 wins and 2 draws for a great score of 4 points out of 5, Hans is storming through the field. He has 4.5 points out of 5. He has won 4 games with 1 draw. Everybody else is way behind. So even though it's a very big matchup in the 6th game, it is clear that both of us are going to qualify to the Final 4. But what this game does is it means that whoever wins this game and wins the group will have the choice to select who they want to play in the next round. So here we go. I'm playing round 6, black piece against Hans, and the game starts with e4. Here I play e5. One funny thing about the setup, by the way, is the only difference between this and the regular starting position is that the knights and the bishops are on different squares. Now imagine if 2,000 years ago in India, when the game was first invented, if the devs had just accidentally, spilled some chai tea or something, they'd put the knights and the bishops on the wrong square, we could have been playing this position for the last 1,500 plus years, instead of the position with this bishop on c1 and f1. So imagine if the devs had gotten a little bit confused, this could have been the position we played, but alas, we can't go back in the time machine to change the game of chess. So Hans plays e4, I play e5. At this point, I simply want to be very solid, so I try to play the symmetrical setup. Hans plays f3, I go knight to e6, bishop f2, f6, and now we get to move c3. I play c6, we get knight g3, and now I play bishop f7. Now at this point, the one difference in the position is that Hans has the knight on g3 versus my knight on e6. Perhaps I should have played f6 and then in this position played knight to g6 so that we could still have the mirror, but you can't go back and change your moves. So we get this position, bishop f7, castles, d4, and now I trade and play the move d5. Now, at this point, there is a big white center. White has these pawns on e4 and d4 versus my pawn on d5. Nonetheless, at this point in the game, I thought the position was pretty balanced, and I should be able to equalize without much difficulty. So Hans plays rook e1, I go rook to e8, and now we get the move knight b3. Here I play knight e7, Hans goes bishop d3, and now I play the move knight to f4. Now, one funny thing is that already in this position, I should have played this move h5, trying to push my p on the king side. The reason I mention this move is that I would eventually play this move much later in the game, I should say like 30 moves down the road, but already here h5, h4 would have made a lot of sense to try and hit the knight on g3. Instead, I go for knight f4, we got bishop f1, and now I play the move b6, trying to dominate this knight on b3 so that it can't jump to either of these squares. We get rook c1, queen d7, Hans plays queen c2, and now I play the move bishop d6. Hans goes a3, I play knight back to g6, we get knight d2, and now I play the move rook c8. Now, apparently here, I'm still better if I play a move like bishop g6 here, trying to create the pin on the diagonal, but it's very difficult because this is a game with only 10 minutes from the start, so you don't want to spend too much time, because if you get low on time, we are not stockfish. We will not be able to play perfectly, so time is a very critical element of the game. So I go back, Hans plays knight d2, and now I play the move rook c8, and this is simply a very, very bad decision. The move that I should have played here is this move a5, trying to stop white from playing this pawn to b4 here. The pawns are still very flexible. I can play c5 or b5, but if white doesn't get this b4 move, there will be no clamp down on the c5 square, and more importantly, this pawn on c6 is free to go. But instead I go rook c8. Hans plays b4. Now I can't really play c5, and I play the move bishop f4. Hans goes rook d1. I play rook d8, and now we get the move knight b1. Here I play rook a8, and this is simply me wandering about in this position, not really finding a plan. Now, it's very tough because Hans is moving very quickly, a la Nepomniachtchi style. He's making his moves really fast, trying to put pressure on the clock, and this is a very critical moment because if I use my time here, say 30 seconds to a minute, I probably can come up with a good plan, but will I spend the time here or just try to match Hans' speed on the board and then hope that it all works out? So I go rook a8, Hans plays knight c3, and now I play the move bishop d6. All this, of course, is very bad. My initial intention was to play a5, but after this move b5 here, suddenly I have all these problems in the center of the board, and it's very, very hard to play. So I realized my mistake. I played bishop d6, so if white goes b5, the a3 pawn will be under pressure, and now we get the move queen b2. Here I play queen c7, another bad move. I actually should have played b5, which I did consider during the game, but I thought after pawn takes pawn, knight takes, and the move knight g to e4, with this dark square weakness, this knight in the center of the board, I thought it was kind of iffy, but apparently after bishop c7, black is fine. So I go queen c7. Hans plays b5, and now I play this move c5. Now, at this moment in the game, I have 4 minutes and 20 seconds, a very interesting time in the game. Hans has 5 minutes and 55 seconds, and this is where I basically use 30 seconds and play the move c5. Now, this move is not the best move in the position, but I'm kind of desperate here because if I don't push this pawn, my center is collapsing here. If I play a move like, say, rook a d8, after takes, there's bishop to b5, winning the rook on e8 or this queen, so I can't really do that, and I just decided to play c5 because once I play this move, something is going to happen in the center. The center is going to open up here because white can take on d5, I can take on d4. Something is going to happen immediately, and with 3 minutes and 57 seconds on the clock, I need to force the action so that it clarifies before I get down to 20-30 seconds where bad things will happen no matter what. So Hans goes rook c1. I play the move rook c8, another bad move here. Probably I should have played bishop f4, but I'm simply trying to move quickly. We got knight to a4, I go c4, Hans plays knight c3, and now I play the move knight to f4. Now, this has all gone wrong here. This is really the moment where Hans spent 3 minutes, I should say nearly 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 45 seconds roughly, on this move. Now, up to this point, Hans has done a great job of his time management here because I'm the one now who's been under pressure. Hans has built the advantage, and this is a critical moment where you use your time, and if you find the right conclusion, you're going to have a big advantage. Now, what Hans should have played is he should have taken this pawn on d5. I presume he was worried about bishop to f4, but apparently white can sack the rook with pawn takes pawn, and after takes, b takes c5, white can go knight g to e4, and apparently with threats of d6, this pressure on c5 and a sack on f6, white is better. Now, is this obvious? Not at all. Do I think it's simple to play? No, I don't think a human would find it, but this is the top computer line. Instead, Hans goes for knight a4, so we get c4, knight c3. I go knight to f4 here, putting this knife on f4 in honor of Gary Chess, the famous former world champion, who said that a knight on f4 or f5 is worth at least 1 pawn. Hans plays rook d1, I go queen d7, a4, and now I finally play this move pawn to h5. Maybe too late, but better late than never. So after I play this move h5 here, Hans plays this move h4. This is actually a very bad decision by Hans. He's trying to match the time here when he plays this move, but now the initiative starts to really turn because I go bishop to b8 here with the idea of lining up the double A battery on this diagonal. Hans plays queen d2, and now I play the move queen d6, setting it up. Here we got the move pawn takes pawn, and this is the moment when I actually felt confident that I was going to win the game after this was played. What Hans should have played here is probably rook to e1, trying to keep the tension in the center, but after knight eg6 here, the knight is jumping towards h4. These knights are active. If white goes knight f5, there's knight h3, sacking the pony, and then queen to h2, checkmating the king. So Hans decides to take, and now correctly I play the move f5. And the great thing about this moment here is that I saw this move f5 before Hans took the pawn, and I had already made up my mind, so I was able to blitz out this move right away. Now these knights do not have a square in the center, and with the double A battery on the diagonal here, white is in all kinds of trouble. So Hans goes rook e1, and now I play queen to f6. Knight g6 was actually a little bit better here because knight takes pawn would run into the same checkmate with check and queen h2 mate. But I go queen f6 here in this position, simply guarding the pawn, threatening to take h4, and also threatening to take the pawn on d5. Hans plays knight to d1, and you can really tell how quickly the game has gone wrong for Hans because he has spent all his time in the last 3 to 4 moves, and now all my moves are so easy. I want to take this one, I want to take this one, I'm trying to checkmate the white king, and white has no ideas here because his pawn on f5 suffocates these knights. They have no oxygen. So Hans goes knight d1. I play knight takes pawn here. This move is okay. Queen to h4 would have been better, but I take, we got the move rook takes pawn, and now I play the move queen takes h4. Hans trades the rooks, and now he regrettably has to play this move f4 because I'm threatening to take the pony on g3. If you move the pony, the double A battery strikes again. Too much energy here with queen to h2. So you have to go f4 to avoid losing the knight, but after takes, queen d3, I play the move knight to f6 here, and now I'm simply up a pawn, and these ideas of checkmating on the edge of the board are simply too much. To make things better for me here, I'm also up 40 seconds on the clock, so I'm feeling very good about the situation. Now here Hans plays bishop to e2. If he were to take what looks like the free horse, I have knight to g4, and now I'm simply going to checkmate on h2 here with the queen and the pony. It's also a fossil here because while I threaten the checkmate, I also discover the rook on e7. Now white can go bishop to e2, avoiding the checkmate, but after bishop to e2, I will simply take the pony and then take the rook, and with the rook for the bishop here, this is simply GG, why not? So I go knight f6. Hans plays bishop to e2. Now I play bishop to c4 here, creating threats on the c file. We get queen f3, and now I play the move bishop d5. Here Hans goes knight to f1. Perhaps he should have played the move queen to d3, but after queen d3, there's also bishop to e4 here, and with all these threats on the diagonals, it's just very, very hard to play. So Hans goes knight f1, but now I can trade the queens. I take the bishop, he takes, I go knight d5, and this is a dream come true. I'm up a pawn in this endgame. I also have the rook on the open file here, so I can create all kinds of kebabs. We get the move bishop takes knight, I take, we get rook f2, and now I play the move knight d5, creating the bastion here. Hans goes g3, and after the move rook to c1, Hans Niemann resigns because if he moves the horse, I have bishop to e3, pinning the rook. This is a double pin. The rook pins the knight. The bishop pins the rook here. I take the rook next turn, and after rook c4, the rook will be enough material to win the game. If in this position, Hans were to take the bishop after rook takes knight here, king g2, rook takes d4, knight g3, and g6, I'm already up 2 pawns in this position with 5 versus 3, but on top of that, either the a4 pawn or the f4 pawn is going to fall off the board. So at this point, after rook to c1, Hans resigns this game, and with this victory, I now leapfrog Hans with 4 wins and 2 draws. Hans having 4 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss. I have a half point more than him going into the final round of the day, where I would also win against Vidit Santosh Gujarati. Hans would ultimately lose the final round to Fabiano Caruana, meaning that as it currently stands, I win my group, meaning that I get the choice from the 3rd or 4th place seed in the other group. Hans will then have to play whoever I don't play. Now, at the present moment, we don't know who is going to emerge from the other group in the 4th spot. There is currently a tiebreaker going on at the moment between Magnus Carlsen and Levon Aronian. Levon Aronian won the first game. The second game is ongoing. Magnus must win this game. If he wins this game, they go to another round of tiebreakers. If Magnus does not win, he will be eliminated. He will be in the bottom group and out of the running for a chance to win the grand prize of $200,000. Now, of course, I'm doing my recap now because I need to go eat dinner, continue with my schedule and my routine. So we will see what happens there, but ultimately it's a very good day for me. If Magnus comes back, you guys will get the extravaganza tomorrow with Magnus Carlsen versus Hans Niemann. If Magnus does not win, that will be a shock in and of itself, but it remains to be seen what the ultimate conclusion will be from the other group and who makes it through in the 4th spot. So, on that note, I hope you guys have enjoyed this recap from the qualifying day of the Freestyle Grand Slam Chess Tour being held here in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Wynn Hotel. If you are not already subscribed to the channel, make sure that you smash that subscribe button below, and we will be back with a recap tomorrow as we move into the knockout stage and slightly slower games with 30 minutes on the clock. But before I go, I also would be remiss if I did not thank all the fans who have shown up here, all you guys who have supported me on YouTube and Twitch throughout the years. I do appreciate it. So big shout out to all you guys for watching this video, especially if you're here in Las Vegas. And we'll be back tomorrow with another recap after the match portion begins. Hope you guys enjoyed it.